I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Mark and I'm 38 years old. I've been married to Lisa for about 10 years now. We have a daughter, Emily, who's 14 and she's into competitive diving. Lisa was always supportive, at least that's what she pretended to be. She was the perfect wife, or so I thought. Up until a few weeks ago, everything seemed normal, routine even. We had our fights, sure, but overall, I believed we had a stable, happy marriage. That was until I started noticing odd things. Lisa's phone started becoming more secretive. She'd take calls in the bathroom or secretly hide her screen when I walked into the room. She'd say she was talking to her sister or a friend, but her tone changed. More defensive, more hurried. Then I caught her lying about where she was going one evening. She said she was going to a parent-teacher meeting for Emily, but I ran into her at the grocery store with some guy, and she was practically glued to him. They looked too comfortable, too familiar. I didn't recognize him at first, but then I saw the way she touched his arm and leaned into him. That's when my stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I followed them at a distance just to see where they'd go. Turns out they headed to a hotel near the competition venue. I couldn't believe it. After all those years, after all the promises, she was cheating on me. With Emily's diving coach of all people. The guy's name is Chris. He's younger, maybe late 20s, and he's the coach for Emily's team. They spend half the year traveling for meets, so I guess that's where it started, on the road during those trips away from the family. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much she'd been hiding. Her texts, her calls, always under cover of business or family plans. But that night, it all clicked. She was sneaking around and lying to my face. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. I knew I had to find out what the hell was going on, so I decided to do some digging. I checked her phone, her emails, her social media. That's when I found the messages. There were dozens of them, flirtatious, intimate, downright disgusting. They'd been doing it for months, maybe longer. The worst part, she was so brazen about it, like she didn't even care if I saw. It hit me hard. My wife, the woman I trusted, had been betraying me in the worst way possible, not just emotionally but physically. I felt sick, betrayed, furious. She's always been such a bitch when she doesn't get her way, loud, dismissive, always lying. But this was next level. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be smart about it. I didn't want her to spin some bullshit story or deny everything. I needed to catch her in the act, or at least have undeniable proof. That's when I decided I'd follow her the next time she said she was going somewhere alone. I couldn't just accuse her without evidence. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about knowing what I was really dealing with. My mind raced with how to handle this. Do I blow up her world? Do I just walk away? I kept thinking about Emily, about all the years I'd spent building this family. And now everything felt like it was crumbling. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed awake, replaying everything I'd seen and read, trying to figure out my next move. The next day, I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, questioning everything, wondering when she'd slip up again. I decided to follow her that evening when she said she was going out to get some fresh air after she was supposedly working late at her office. I stayed quiet, watching her from a distance as she got into her car. She didn't look suspicious, just tired and stressed, which was typical lately. Since I found out about her affair, she'd been more irritable, snapping over little things, always on edge. She drove out of town, heading toward the same hotel I'd seen her with Chris. My stomach clenched. I parked a few blocks away and kept my eyes on her. She stayed inside for about an hour. I saw her exit, looking around nervously, and then she got into a different car, some guy I didn't recognize. I followed her at a safe distance, trying not to blow my cover. She drove to a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. I parked around the corner, heart pounding. I debated whether I should go inside or keep watching, but my curiosity was overwhelming. I needed to see what was happening, what she was doing. After 10 minutes, I saw her come out of the motel, her face flushed but composed. She was wearing the same clothes she'd had that morning. That's when I saw a guy walk out behind her, tall, broad-shouldered, with a smirk on his face. They exchanged a quick, sloppy kiss before she slipped into her car. I sat there stunned, feeling like all my insides were turning to ice. This was no innocent meeting. They'd clearly been doing this for a while. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I'd trusted her. I'd given her everything, our home, our daughter's stability, and she'd been throwing it all away behind my back. I knew I couldn't confront her immediately. That would only make her defensive and deny everything. I had to plan my next move carefully. I needed proof that I could show her, something irrefutable. I waited until she returned home, then followed her inside. She acted normal, like nothing had happened. She cooked dinner for Emily, did her usual chores, but I saw the flicker of guilt behind her eyes. She knew I'd seen her, even if she didn't say it outright. I couldn't handle the lying anymore. That night I sat her down and told her I knew about everything. Her reaction, wide eyes, a rush of lies, trying to spin some ridiculous story about how she was just talking to a friend, that it meant nothing. She claimed she was stressed, overwhelmed, that I was imagining things. But I had photos, texts, everything. Her voice was bitchy, dismissive, as if she thought she could talk her way out of this mess with her usual attitude. She called me paranoid, jealous, accused me of stalking her. I felt a surge of rage. I told her I wasn't going to be made a fool of, that I'd seen enough, that her lies didn't change what I knew. She sneered, called me insecure, said I was overreacting. That's when I realized she had no intention of stopping or even admitting the truth. She just kept lying, covering her ass, acting like she was the victim. At that moment, I felt a cold realization settle in. This wasn't just a fling, it was something deeper, more calculated. She'd been cheating for months, maybe longer, and she thought she could keep it hidden forever. I looked at her and thought about everything, the late nights, the secret texts, the stolen moments. I felt a deep, aching betrayal that I didn't know how to process. I was angry, hurt, humiliated. But I also knew I couldn't let her keep doing this. I needed to decide what to do next. Confront her again, or just end it all. I've always believed in honesty, but this was a level of betrayal I never saw coming. I wasn't sure I could come back from this, not without some serious repercussions. For now, I just told her I needed some time to think, that I wasn't going to be an idiot anymore. I had the evidence. I had everything I needed. But the emotional damage, that's going to take much longer to fix. After that confrontation, everything felt different, like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I was furious, but a part of me also felt crushed. I kept replaying her sneers, her dismissive attitude, how she acted like she was untouchable. It was clear she thought she could lie her way out of this, that I was too stupid or too blind to see what was really happening. But I wasn't stupid. I saw everything, and I knew she was screwing around with Chris, Emily's coach, the guy who's supposed to be teaching our daughter how to dive. The thing is, Lisa, my wife, she's always been a bit of a bitch, loud, manipulative, good at spinning a story. When I confronted her, she was quick to turn things around, accuse me of being paranoid or jealous, like I was the one at fault for catching her cheating. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. That made me even angrier. She lied so easily, like she thought her bullshit could cover everything up. But I wasn't buying it. I had proof. And I knew I had to do something, but I also didn't want to jump into head first. My mind kept racing. What's the best way to handle this? Do I threaten to leave her? Do I confront her again in a different way? Do I just pack my bags and walk away? I decided to sit tight for a bit, gather my thoughts, and plan my next move. I wanted to catch her in the act again, maybe get her to slip up even more so I could have even harder evidence. Over the next few days, I kept my distance. I watched her, listened to her, and paid close attention to her phone, her texts, her calls. I wanted to see if she'd slip up again. She was more tense than ever, snapping at Emily, snapping at me. I could tell she was hiding something, even if she denied it. I also started talking to some of the other parents at Emily's diving club. I wanted to confirm what I already suspected, that Lisa and Chris had been sneaking around during competition trips. One thing that struck me was how she's always been a bitchy control freak, quick to dismiss anyone who challenged her. That's her personality, loud, dismissive, and always lying when it suits her. But beneath that, I could see her cracks. She was scared, guilty, and desperate to keep her lies intact. I knew I had to keep playing it cool, not confront her again until I had something concrete. I also started to consider what I'd do if I found out she was having sex with Chris. That's what I feared the most, standing there knowing she'd betrayed me physically. One night, I decided to go through her phone again just to be sure. I knew I was crossing a line, but I needed to know the truth. I found more texts deeper, more explicit. They were talking about meeting up, about how much they wanted each other. Some messages were from Chris, telling her how hot she looked in her swimsuit, how much he wanted to fuck her. I felt my stomach turn. That confirmed everything. The emotional affair was bad enough, but if she was sleeping with him, that would be a whole new level of betrayal. I didn't want to just leave her without anything. I wanted to make her feel the pain, the humiliation. So I started devising a plan. I knew I had to be careful. If I blew everything up now, she'd deny it, spin some bullshit story, and I'd look like the crazy husband. I needed to catch her red-handed or have enough evidence to make her admit it. I also started thinking about how I'd tell Emily about all this. She's too young to understand the full scope, but I can't keep hiding the truth either. Every day felt like walking on thin ice. I was angry, hurt, and frustrated, but I also knew I couldn't make any impulsive moves. I had to stay calm, gather my strength, and wait for the right moment. The hardest part was knowing that the woman I loved had been lying and cheating behind my back for months, maybe longer. And now I was left with this terrible choice. Do I confront her again and risk everything, or just pack up and leave? The pain was almost unbearable, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't let her keep getting away with it forever. I owed myself that much to find out the truth, no matter how ugly it was. The waiting was torture. Every day felt like walking through a fog of anger and sadness, but I knew I couldn't rush this. I needed irrefutable proof, and I needed to be strategic. My mind kept circling around one thing: how to catch her red-handed without her suspecting I was onto her. I started monitoring her more closely, changing my routines, staying home when I could, trying to see if she slipped up again. One evening, she told me she was heading out to meet some friends for dinner. I decided to follow her again just to see what she was up to. I parked a few blocks away and watched her leave the house, acting casual like she wasn't hiding anything. She got into her car, drove to the same motel she'd visited before, and I followed at a discreet distance. When she arrived, I saw her meet someone, definitely not a friend. The guy was waiting outside, looking around nervously. They exchanged a quick, intense kiss before she slipped into the motel room. I parked around the corner and stayed hidden, heart pounding. I watched as they went inside, knowing it was probably for sex. That confirmed my worst fears. She wasn't just emotionally cheating, she was physically involved with Chris. The betrayal cut me to the bone. I had to see more, had to have something concrete that I could use to confront her properly. I waited for about an hour, then saw her come out, looking exhausted but satisfied. She slipped into her car and drove away. I stayed in the shadows until I was sure she was gone. Then I quickly retrieved my phone and snapped some photos through a crack in the curtains of the motel room. It wasn't much, but it was enough to prove she'd been having sex with Chris. For the first time, I felt a strange mix of relief and disgust. Relief because I finally had proof, and disgust because she'd been lying and sneaking around for so long. When I got home, I knew I couldn't keep playing nice. I waited until Emily was asleep, then I sat Lisa down. This time I laid everything out: screenshots, photos, the texts, everything I had. Her reaction was unbelievable. She went into full denial mode, calling me crazy, paranoid, insecure. She threw out every excuse in the book: stress, work, feeling overwhelmed. She said I was nuts for spying, that I was ruining everything. Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like she thought she could just brush this off. I was furious. How could she lie so easily? How could she think she could get away with this? I told her I wasn't stupid, that I knew the truth now and I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I told her I'd had enough of her bullshit, that she was a liar and a cheat. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, and told me I was making a huge deal out of nothing. That's when I realized she had no remorse, no regret, just arrogance, like she believed she could keep this secret forever. The emotional blow hit me hard. I'd loved her once, believed in our marriage, built a life with her. And now I saw her for what she really was: a selfish, manipulative bitch who only cared about herself. I felt broken, betrayed, and disgusted. But I also knew I had to decide what I was going to do next. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about our entire relationship, our trust, our future. I told her I needed time to think, that I wasn't going to be fooled by her lies anymore. I told her I knew everything, and from now on, things would change. Whether that meant ending it or fighting to save what was left, I didn't know yet. But I wasn't going to be her punching bag or her fool anymore. I just wanted her to know I was onto her, and that I wasn't going to be played for a fool. That night I felt emptier than I'd ever felt before, like I'd lost the part of myself that still believed in happily ever after. All I had now was a heavy sense of betrayal and the need to figure out how to move forward from this mess. The days that followed were the hardest. I stayed in a fog, oscillating between rage, sadness, and a sick sense of betrayal I couldn't shake. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her differently. No longer the woman I married, but someone I barely recognized. Emily kept asking questions about why Mom was acting weird, why I was so distant. I didn't have the heart to tell her the full truth, but I knew I had to prepare for a serious talk. Emily loved her mother, and I didn't want to ruin that for her, but I also couldn't keep up the charade anymore. I spent long nights debating my options. Part of me wanted to leave, to just walk away and wash my hands of her. But another part, still holding onto some hope, wanted to see if she'd try to fix this, if she'd genuinely apologize, or if she was just going to dig her heels in and lie her way out of it again. I knew I'd have to confront her again, but I needed a better plan. I couldn't trust her to be honest, not anymore. The betrayal was too deep. One evening she came home from what she claimed was a work dinner, her phone in her hand, acting suspiciously casual but nervously glancing around. I watched her steal a quick peek at her screen and saw a new message pop up from Chris. I couldn't resist. I snatched her phone from her hand. She immediately started to protest, but I had seen enough. The message was explicit, saying how much she missed him, how she wanted to be with him again, and how she couldn't wait until their next secret meetup. Her face went pale and her bitchy attitude quickly turned defensive. She yelled at me, called me crazy, and accused me of spying. She tried to spin it as innocent, just some work-related stuff, she said, that I was blowing everything out of proportion. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I showed her the proof, the message that proved she was cheating on me again, this time more openly. Her reaction, she scoffed, called me possessive, and told me I was being paranoid because I didn't trust her fabulous ways anymore. That was the moment I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I felt the rage boiling inside me, but beneath that, there was a cold resolve. If she was going to keep lying, I'd have to do something drastic. I decided I'd record her next encounter, catch her in the act again, and then make a decision. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to sit around and be her fool anymore. I started planning how I'd catch her, carefully choosing my timing. I knew I'd need evidence if I was going to do anything drastic, whether that was confronting her publicly or making her face the consequences. I also reached out to a lawyer, just to understand my options, because I was that close to ending this farce for good. I didn't want to be the guy who stayed in a marriage full of lies and betrayal, but part of me still hoped she'd come clean and own up to what she'd done. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting like nothing was wrong, throwing tantrums when I questioned her, calling me crazy for even suspecting her. Honestly, it was exhausting. The woman I once loved was now just a stranger hiding in plain sight, and I didn't recognize her anymore. I felt like I was losing my mind trying to hold onto whatever shred of the relationship was left. All I knew was, I couldn't keep living in this lie. I had to find out the truth once and for all, and then decide whether this marriage was worth saving or if I should finally walk away from everything I ever believed in. That night, I made my decision. I knew I couldn't go on pretending that everything was fine or hope she'd suddenly change. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, just a small device, enough to catch whatever she was up to when I wasn't around. I knew she'd try to hide her lies better, but I needed undeniable proof so I could finally put an end to this nightmare. I stayed awake late that night, heart pounding, waiting for her to come home. Sure enough, a few hours later, she slipped in quietly, trying to be stealthy. I pretended to be asleep, watched her from the shadows. She tiptoed around, nervously glancing at her phone, trying to hide it from me. I saw her whisper into it, saw her sneak into the bedroom, and I pressed record. When she thought I was asleep, she took off her clothes, climbed into bed, and shortly after, I saw Chris's face pop up on her screen again. I had enough. I hit play on the camera footage the next morning before she could wake up. When she saw the videos, her face twisted with anger, then panic. She started yelling, calling me every name in the book: crazy, jealous, insecure. She frantically tried to deny everything, claiming I was stalking her, obsessing over her, that she never meant to hurt me, that it was just a mistake. But I had her on tape, her voice, her actions, her sneaking around. The evidence was irrefutable, and she knew it. I looked at her with cold, hard eyes. I told her I was done, done pretending, done trusting her. I told her I couldn't be married to someone who lied, who cheated, who used me and our daughter as cover. I said I wanted her to leave, that I was filing for divorce, and I wanted her out of my house. Her bitchy attitude crumbled for the first time. Her mask of confidence disappeared, replaced with desperate tears, accusations, and a lot of blame shifting. She called me heartless, said I was ruining everything, but I didn't care anymore. Her words bounced off me like bullets. In the following days, I stayed firm. I moved out of the house, got a lawyer, and filed for divorce. Emily, thank God, didn't fully understand what was happening, but I promised her that her mother's actions didn't define her. I knew I'd be better off without Lisa's lies and manipulations. I looked at her one last time as she packed her things, her bitchy, entitled attitude replaced with tears and regret, and felt a strange sense of relief mixed with grief. This whole experience taught me a lot. Trust can be shattered in a second, and sometimes the people closest to you are hiding the worst secrets. I learned that you can't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want to believe in fairy tales. And I learned that revenge isn't about hurting someone just for the sake of it. It's about finally exposing the truth and reclaiming your own life. I still feel the sting of betrayal every day, but I also feel a strange sense of liberation. I may have lost the woman I loved, but I also found a new sense of strength and clarity. To anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, and don't be afraid to face the ugly truth. You deserve honesty and respect, not lies and betrayal. It hurts, I won't lie about that, but in the end, it's better to face the pain than live in a lie. I'm still healing, still rebuilding, but I know now that I'm stronger than any betrayal. And the best revenge, I figured out, isn't revenge at all. It's living honestly and refusing to let someone's lies define you.